or something like that. It's just over time, it's going to happen.
Okay.
But just, as long as you keep good water chemistry, you're going to extend the life of your pool.
How to clean the salt cell?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Okay.
Clean the salt cell and also maintenance on it, like a schedule. Like you told us how often for the filter, how often for all the other things.
So the salt cell is, you don't want to clean it until there's a problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Basically, on the pleats of the cell themselves, there is ruthenium coating, and the ruthenium reads the salt level, and basically that's what helps generate the chlorine using the salt. As you clean it, you take off just a tiny bit of it every single time, and if you're preemptively cleaning it, you're just killing the cell at that point. The only time you need to clean the cell is if you notice a lot of calcium buildup, basically just big old white calcium flakes and everything in there. The cell should clean itself.
Okay.
It has reverse polarity in there, so in that 50% of the time that it's generating, the other 50% of the time that it's not generating, it's reverse polarity, it's kicking all the calcium off the cell, it's going into the pool, and it's just kind of going back into the water. So, but if you're noticing, I just can't keep a chlorine level, check the cell, pop it open, see if there's any calcium in there. If there is, the way to clean it is usually a bucket or some type of screw cap that'll go on the bottom. You need to do 4 parts water to 1 part acid, and you always want to add the acid to the water. Don't add water to acid.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I've always been told that.
Okay.
Because it'll splash back and it's not good.
Okay.
So, and then muriatic acid usually. Sulfuric, the only reason you'd use that is if you don't like the smell of the muriatic. So it's like a no smell, which it can be pretty powerful. So, but basically, once you get the cap on the bottom, set it somewhere where it's not going to fall over or anything. I usually just set it inside of a bucket in case it does fall over. It's not really hurting anything. Make sure the system's turned off because you're going to actually have the cell out. Unplug it and everything. Make sure there's no power being sent to it. And pour the mixture into the cell. You'll start to notice it'll bubble. Leave it in there for 30 minutes or so. Come back, check it. If it's still bubbling, then just kind of let it go for another 10 minutes. If it's stopped bubbling but you're still noticing calcium, take the water that's inside of the unit, pour it into the pool because it's just muriatic acid and water. Take it back out, do a new solution, pour it in, and then just kind of do that until it's clean.
Okay.
And then you can also spray it out with the water hose too.
Okay.
If it seems like it's loose in there but it's just not coming out, just
Okay.
use a high pressure nozzle or something and shoot it out of there.
Okay.
So we clean the filter every 2 weeks and we test the water every 1 week, or?
I usually recommend testing the water once a week just
Okay.
because in Florida, whenever it starts getting hot, it goes quick.
Okay.
If you don't have chlorine for a week and a half, then
Oh, okay.
you're starting to see a little bit of green on the walls and stuff like that. So
How often do you clean the water and the bottom and the
So,
whole thing to brush it
same
all out?
thing, once a week. Usually we recommend, brush it, just do it real good, all the way around the edges, steps, all that stuff. Netting, just kind of as is. You've got a, screen enclosure, so you don't really have to worry about it that much. But definitely you want to brush it just because sometimes there can be algae on the walls and you just don't notice it.
Okay.
And once you hit it with the brush, you'll notice it. It's kind of plowed up. So.
Okay. Is that it? That usually that's the maintenance of it? How about
Yeah,
the bath?
pretty
It's
much.
bath just once a week too?
Yeah, about the same time. Usually I recommend that at the time that you're getting your water sample, just go ahead and brush the pool and, empty out the basket if there's anything in it. You can just pop it open, see if there's nothing in it, and then put it back. But at that same time, just kind of do your typical maintenance stuff. The only thing I can tell you about that little fountain
Yeah.
is that is actually cooling the pool down right now.
Yeah.
So as you're breaking surface tension, it is actually making the pool colder.
Yeah.
Not by a lot, but over time it will.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Any
that's
other
it, I
questions
think.
or anything?
You hit it all?
I think so.
So obviously, anytime that we're doing anything with opening something or making sure that the pump is off before we even open anything, I always like to release the pressure no matter what. This one is a unscrew style. This is a super pump, I am pretty sure. So basically, you unscrew it, set those to the side, and then lift up.
Oh.
Got a little bit of stuff in there.
Dog hair.
You got a dog that likes going swimming?
No. We're trying to get him to go swimming, but he doesn't want to get in.
Not a huge fan?
No.
No.
You got that lube still, Justin?
Yeah, it's in my pocket.
Cool. So, anytime you open anything, lube it.
Okay.
It helps out with the life of the O-rings. And also, you want to kind of clean any debris off of it because dirt is your enemy when it comes to O-rings. Anything that breaks the seal will eventually create a leak or a air leak. Something you will notice if you have an air leak though is a bunch of bubbles coming into the lid of the pump.
Okay.
You'll start to see them kind of just floating around in there. Something you can do to try to figure out where the problem is take the hose, set it on just kind of like a regular trickle, run it over top of the valves, and then over top of the lid, and then over top of the little drain plug here. It doesn't always work, but it's a good starting point for trying to figure out what it is. More than likely, it'll end up being one of the valves is pinched, especially if you had moved the valve at some point beforehand, and then you started to notice the little bit of air leak in there. Just like anything, it's gonna wear. It's got its little wear spots, but they're $5.99 a piece, and just pop them open, redo them, or you could always call us to do it as well. So take a little bit of this, and we sell the lube at the shop as well. A lot of people try to use like Vaseline, but Vaseline's a lot more like oil based.
Okay.
And you'll see a lot more of those oily slicks at the top of the pool.
Okay.
And it just does not look appealing. And then you want to hook it in right there on the back, and then push down on it. Tighten one side, the other. And then just hand tight. Never want to use tools or anything on them because you can always crack the lid or something like that. Pump on. Make sure your air bleed's open because we've broken the vacuum inside of the system. And it'll take just a couple minutes. See the water hitting the back and then starting to prime up now.
The other question is, how do you do this? Like, how do you think we should? You said you were going to adjust it for the.
Yeah, so you're sending about 95% of your suction to your cleaner.
Oh, okay.
So if I sent any more to it, you'd be sending all your suction to it, and the pump doesn't like whenever you completely draw from one line only.
Right.
It likes to draw from many different lines because if you think about it, your cleaner has a little spin wheel in there, and that's reducing suction. And if you completely are just pulling from that, it's every once in a while reducing the suction, and your pump will not prime up, and it will actually have a lot of air in it because it's trying to pull more than it can push.
So
But
that is bad for the headlight.
No. If you sent more
Okay.
than that, then that would be a problem because.
And how do you shut it off? I guess which way is shut it off?
So
It's
off,
over here.
yeah. So
Okay.
you would want to put it over top of the line. Also, if you notice how the pump sounds, so you can always do it like this, but whenever you completely draw from one, you notice a lot of air coming into it. The pump will tell you whenever it's angry.
Okay.
So
So it should never do that.
yeah, whenever it's louder or, whenever it's starting to draw in a lot of air, then you want to kind of check and see, like, what's going on? Why is my pump sound like that? Why are the valves, or why does the pump have a lot of air in it? What are my valves set to, and how can I fix that?
This guy. How do you know what this thing is? How much? What's the percentage? What's it at right now?
It's really just kind of seeing it and kind of visualizing it. So you got like 80% going to here now that I've opened it a little bit more, and then 20% goes over to here. You got like 15 here and like 5 here.
Okay.
It's just kind of it's no exact math. I just use it as like a visualization thing.
Okay.
But you can always shut down your main drain a little bit more to send more power to this. It's really just about finding your sweet spot and what makes the pump happy. And there's no exact setting. It's going to change as the pressure on the system changes. It's just about seeing, does my cleaner run around like I want it to? Does the top of the water look as good as I want it to?
And if not, then I would turn that one down a little bit so I can have a little more air.
Yeah, so you would turn it like that, so the cleaner would move a little bit slower, but it would still be moving at a good rate, and then it would be pulling more into the skimmer.
Okay.
So it would have a little bit more.
All right.
Anything else?
No, I'm good.
I guess what's that box then? Is that just part of the engine?
This
Is there
right
a
here?
reason? No, the cover. Is there
Oh,
a
this?
reason for that thing?
Yes, actually that is a motor cover. Basically, it just keeps any rain or any water off of the motor.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to have it, but it will extend the life of your motor. It's good to have. As far as anything else, have you ever
with
noticed?
this guy, is there anything? I mean, as long as it's doing 50%.
Yeah,
Like the check
you can
system's
always
not on?
adjust it too from 50. So if you wanted to go, 55% or something like that. So in the store, they'll ask you, hey, what's your salt system set to? You would have said 50% or 55%.
And that's how you figure out what the numbers.
Yeah.
that you're gonna put
So
in.
this is what generates the chlorine. So if you don't have enough chlorine, then you bump up the percentage. And then if you have too much chlorine, then you bump down the percentage. And I'm assuming that the guys, since they're testing the water and everything, they've set your salt system to the right percentage for you at this time of year. Because again, with the valves and everything, this will change depending on the time of year. So winter, you'll have to bump it down a little bit because 50% you're going to be generating too much chlorine because algae's not trying to grow in the middle of winter. You might even go down to 15%, something like that. But right before it hits spring, you definitely want to kick it back up into the higher percentages because you want to start generating enough chlorine to fight off algae as it's trying to grow. Boost right here. This button, this runs it at 100% for 24 hours or as long as the pump's running, and then it just goes right back into its normal setting.
And what would you use that for if you think you're off a little bit?
Yeah, so if you're noticing, hey, I have no chlorine in the pool and I just want to get good chlorine, as long as your salt's at the right level, hit that boost button, it generates 100% for the whole time the pump's running, and then you don't have to worry about coming out here and turning it off or anything, because boost just goes 24 hours and it goes right back into auto setting. Menu, there's really nothing in there. There's a test pool pilot, but I mean, that's something that over time you'll just kind of learn that with the system. This little gray wire right here, if you ever notice where it says check system, or along here it says flow, check this wire that comes from here. This is your flow switch. Lawn guys and squirrels love to eat them. You know? So if you have any type of weed whackers or anything, careful around wires, because they do like to set them out, just kind of laying them out. I usually will zip tie them to make sure that nobody gets them, but that's what I would recommend. Just kind of tighten it up. So, anything